Beautiful. You know, if you want to, some Sundays, you can go up the stairs and sit and watch Reiko play. You have to do that at least once in a lifetime. It's amazing. My husband is fond of saying, not ruefully, but with gratitude sometimes, especially when things are chaotic, this is as good as it gets. So I welcome us all this morning in this spirit. This is as good as it gets. This day, this hour to sing, to have the ground underneath us shaken, but not by something that registers on the Richter scale around the city. To find something to take with us for the week, to hold, to sit with, to contemplate, to weave into the meaning making that we do throughout our lives, to be with one another, to be connected in community with people we know and people we don't. This, my friends, is as good as it gets. So welcome. I want to say a special welcome this morning to our live streaming friends, and I want to ask Jose Garcia, are you here? He was here yesterday, so we would forgive him if he isn't. Okay, well, Jose. Friends of Jose Garcia, I promised him I would do this. Domingo and Ann Pardo from Silver City, New Mexico. Welcome. They've been joining us for many weeks, so it's great to have you as part of our virtual community. Nice to have you here. Janice Scallion, are you here? Janice, welcome. Janice was raised in our North Andover, Massachusetts parish. Your minister, who's a good friend of mine, texted me this morning, so we're watching you. So it's so great to have you here with us this Sunday. And if any of you are here for the first time, or one of the first times, if you don't mind raising your hand so we can recognize you and welcome you. It's great to have you. There are yellow sheets in front of you that if you sign them, we'll get back to you if you need more information, but we'll also put you on our weekly email newsletter so you can keep track of what's going on and come be part of it. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to this hour of worship together, which we will begin with singing. We'll sing from our teal hymnal. It is hymn number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. You are welcome to look at it. I will yell out the one word that changes if you want to be hymnal free today. So I invite you to rise as you're able in body and spirit as we sing together.
Now please join in our unison chalice lighting. The words can be found in your order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
Hey, whatever happened to those goggles of enhanced perception?
It's amazing you said that, because I just happened to have them right here.
Oh my God, I so missed those.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah. That's
You
amazing.
all still look beautiful.
Why do you need enhanced perception to say that? That's really...
Well, that's
I
true,
don't know,
but
whatever.
you know, it's
Yeah.
enhanced beauty is what I'm really picking up on here. But you know what I noticed?
What did you notice?
I noticed with these enhanced perception
Yeah.
goggles
Yeah.
that we have
Oh my God.
the magic box.
The magic box has appeared.
Yeah. And because I am nearsighted,
Yeah.
these actually make it a little tough to
yeah.
see what's inside.
They do. They do.
They're
make you
better
look-
for long distance
Yeah.
of enhanced perception.
Yeah. So what's in...
So should we look in here?
Yeah, let's look. Let's look. Whoa.
Ha-ha!
Oh, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, now some of you can't
Yeah.
see this.
Can you...
That's a boom box.
Does anyone under the age of, I don't know, 30 know what a boom box
Yeah.
is? Yeah, you're not under
Yeah.
the age of 30, John Young.
Yeah,
I'm just
boom
saying.
boxers. Woo-hoo!
Yeah. Oh,
You know, there's some
yeah.
of us who are boomers, and there's some of us who are boom boxers.
So, this used to play music.
Yes.
It was
Two
really
ways.
big, and you would carry it around
Two
and share it
ways,
with your friends.
cassettes and radio.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Those were the days. Oh,
Yeah.
says on the back.
Ingredient of joy for joy.
All
Well,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I can remember, you know, I had my Walkman, and that was joyful, but it was kind of personal joy. The boombox was something that everybody, whether they liked it or not, got to be part of the joy. Now, the other thing in the box,
Oh.
and also an ingredient for joy. Interesting word, ingredient for joy. What is it? A paintbrush. Do you think a paintbrush is a joyful thing, Luna?
No.
Do you like to paint them?
That's because you must be made to paint rooms in your house.
You know,
don't
I
you
saw
think?
you yesterday at the Bike Coalition Winterfest, and you were drawing all over the place, and it looked like you were having a good time. So I'm going to guess that a paintbrush is something that could bring you joy.
And you do watercolors.
Yeah, I do watercolors, and
Yeah.
I like to just mess around. So these are two interesting things
All right,
in here.
I'm starting to see. Okay, I get that. Ingredients for joy.
Yeah. Now, what
okay,
else
but
is
now
in
it gets
there?
a little confusing. Okay, what's this?
Well,
This
it's
is
a photograph.
picture of two people. It says "Welcome refugees" and "Love knows no borders." And I don't know. I think. Do you?
Well, what does
Do you
it?
think
Does she have
where
a
they
name?
are? Do you
Well, I happen to know actually.
Oh.
Because I have enhanced perception.
Oh, yeah.
That this is Monica Kirka.
Oh, well, yeah. It says that. Good
Oh,
job.
see, well, yeah. I mean, but enhanced perception. And she's being recognized this year through the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee
Which does
because
all
of
our
her
international work. Yeah.
Right.
Activate Labs. It says.
Activate
Oh,
Labs.
I'm
Do
remembering
you guys know
about
Activate
her.
Labs? What do you know about her?
She brings arts and music to refugee camps and places where people are struggling
So
and
she
suffering.
uses things like a boombox and a paintbrush?
I know. Why wouldn't she bring food and water?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, food and water and shelter, those are important, but there are other things that bring a sense of healing and hopefully joy in your life, and sometimes that's through music or art making, and particularly when you get to do it with other people.
Oh, and remember, she's from Romania.
Oh,
She was a
Romania.
refugee from Romania. It's coming back to me.
Yeah.
That she talked about when she came, she had to leave everything behind, and all she had and her family had were their stories. That was the treasure that they brought with them.
And she came from Romania, and that's where our Transylvania churches are. So that's an interesting
true.
connection
That's a nice connection.
there.
In fact, here is another photo that's in the magic box.
So my guess is she's teaching people how to be.
Well, this woman's got a camera, and this
filmmakers.
person's got like a sound gear tied up to the camera, so they're obviously filming.
Yeah, so maybe this. I read a story that she worked with women whose children had been killed due to police violence. And so she gathered those mothers together to collect their stories and a way to share those stories between themselves, as well as to bring those stories out into the world. So that might be that story too that she's sharing, which is real important.
Wow, well, they need healing, right?
Right.
However
well,
you can find it.
Powerful that way.
Well,
anything?
There's just
one
last
more thing.
Yeah.
It's a box.
Yeah, I think that's. Do any of the kids know what these are? Have you seen these
Well,
from past
it
years?
says ingredients for joy. So clearly this box has something joyful about it. And it's actually, I remember, it's the guest at your table box.
Yeah, we do this every year.
Right. So the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which works to promote human rights around the world, each year
with grassroots organizations,
right?
Yeah, in the best of the philanthropic new
Can I
tradition.
finish now?
Well, I just want people to know, philanthropy's under a lot of criticism right now, and they're all about self-determination for those of you in that world.
Right.
It's really well done.
Right.
If we do say so ourselves. So.
And we do say that.
And we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the boxes are going to be given out to the kids in their classrooms today, and then for the rest of you who are so unfortunately not going to be with us in the classrooms, though you will be here having an amazingly happy time today.
It'd be fantastic.
You will get your boxes during the offering, but the boxes are an opportunity, an invitation really, to set them on your tables, your dining tables. And so during the holiday season, as you're gathering together, you're invited to collect ingredients of joy, which in this case is your money.
Which is a way you transfer
opportunities. Opportunities to collect money and provide money to organizations that are doing the hard, soulful, important work of bringing joy and hope and healing to people around the world.
Hence this. You put money in this.
Right.
And then it helps fund the joy that Monica and Activate
And so
Labs
many
and
others
other
do.
organizations are doing around the world.
So that's what
Magic
we're here to
box
tell you
is
today.
so wise, isn't it?
It is.
So get your guest at your table box, and we'll be. When do we?
So when you're
them?
making your ingredients for your special holiday, did you want to come up and get the box?
Oh,
Hi, Miles.
Yeah, you can have this one. It has a
there you
special
go.
label in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Excellent. Do you have red hair? Because that's great. Red hair is great.
So while you're making your ingredients to bring your meals together to share with your friends and family, ultimately creating an experience of joy and celebration, we hope those guests at your table boxes will be a central part of your table as we together do the work of bringing joy into the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for wearing those goggles, too.
Yeah.
That gave me joy. Judy, Payne, I think you're bringing us some more joy. The choir, by the way, is going to Berkeley today to do their concert, which we will enjoy next week in Big Music Sunday. So they're all dressed in black, looking very... Oh, did I steal it? Oh, shoot. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, many of us are dressed in black today because we're going to Berkeley to try out something that we're going to bring to you next Sunday. Next Sunday is Big Music Sunday, so we have about 150 singers and a full orchestra for a wonderful piece that Mark has put together. It's called a mashup, and please come and bring your friends. It would be embarrassing to have more people on the stage than in the congregation. So, morning, my name is Judy Payne, and I'm on the Board of Trustees and a choir member. And I want to invite everyone to coffee hour after the service, which is in the courtyard today, since the sun is shining. And if you're interested, John Burens, raise your hand, we'll give a brief tour of the church. Meet him up here in the front right after the service. And after you have your coffee and your tour, you can join us on the front steps to protest the detention camps and separation of children from their families. We've been bearing witness to these atrocities every Sunday since July. It's about the border issue. And there are some other announcements today, sorry. And be sure to read the order of service. Take it home with you if you don't want to read it during the sermon. And it tells all the activities that go on around here. And again, next week is Big Music Sunday. And also next Sunday at 9:30. The forum will include Berkeley Emerita Professor of Sociology Arlie Hochschild, who has written many books, but most recently, the one about the deep story of poor whites in Louisiana called Strangers in Their Own Land. So join us next Sunday. There's lots going on. And today, we have a special training from 1 to 4 by the Transgender Spiritual Care Initiative. And we heard about it last week a bit. And there are still some spots in this training, and it includes lunch. So if you're interested in the Transgender Spiritual Care Initiative, speak with Vanessa right after the service. And we have our Holiday Fair wine raffle coming up. The Holiday Fair is the second Sunday in December. I think it's the 8th. 7th and 8th? Just 8th. Okay. And once again, Thad Smith is collecting bottles of good wine, $10 or more, for the annual wine raffle, which is always a good fundraiser for the church. So bring the wine to the desk or see Thad. And that's about it. Is it now time to greet one another?
Remain standing for our covenant and the doxology.
So yes, please greet one another and then remain standing for the covenant and doxology.
All right, let's sing together you can remain standing. We're going to sing together the meditation on breathing. This week we put the words in your order of service, so you don't even need to look at the hymnal. Can I get some help from the choir? What note should we start on? Are you going to, why don't you, yeah? Come on. Good. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe in.
Now please stay standing for our spoken covenant and sung doxology. The words are also in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
I
recognizing there is human suffering all over this world in the course of natural and human catastrophes. We ring our gong this morning in honor of two such places of suffering and as a reminder of the obligation to know what is happening in our nation, being done in our name, and to protect the vulnerable. So we ring our gong in honor of those 7 children who have lost their lives this year in federal custody at detention camps. And we let that ringing stand symbolically for those adults who have lost their lives in these camps, for the additional 1,500 children separated from their families since our protests began in July, for the 70,000 adults and 11,000 or more children in detention camps. We ring our gong. This week also we ring it once for a nation rocked again by gun violence and the school shooting in our own state, for the people of Santa Clarita, and for the impeachment hearings. May the truth, may life, may regard for our highest values have its day everywhere in this land. And so we keep all of the human beings mentioned and their loved ones, our nation itself, in our thoughts and in our prayers, and commit that we too will seek to ease the tide of human suffering this coming week, howsoever we can. From the whirl of the week, we gather to sit and be still. From the noise of the city, we seek a little quiet. From the cacophony of the world, some harmony sought in word or song, or how we are with one another. May the fullness of our hearts be held out like an offering to be blessed and healed this morning. May our pains of body and spirit find some tenderness of the kind that makes it easier to bear. May we be known and accepted as we are. May all that ails us be just a little lighter to bear. And the joy we have in life sink deep into our bones. In the silence we will hold together, we make space then for all that can be held and healed in simple, quiet togetherness. I invite us to join in shared silence. Amen.
I live with anxiety. This means that many of my natural instincts about what will make me happy are completely backwards. I have a strong instinct to achieve happiness by eliminating all worry, anything that might be able to go wrong. If I can just make it so that I have nothing to worry about, there will be nothing to make me unhappy. You might note that it's impossible to have nothing to worry about. So all this instinct actually achieves is making me overly focus on unlikely issues, belaboring small worries. This means that I'm making myself unhappy now by worrying about the 1 in 1,000 chance that I'll be unhappy later. Anxiety is an unhappiness magnifying glass. My anxiety also makes me want to keep as many options open as possible. There's nothing more frustrating to me than wishing that I hadn't committed to something where I now want to do something a little bit different. Buying plane tickets is especially hard. If I'm looking at buying plane tickets 2 months from now, do I really know if I want the morning flight or the afternoon? What if something here comes up and I wish that I were leaving the next day? What if there's a sale after I buy and I don't get the best price? But what if I wait too long and the prices all get much higher? I'll often mull over my flights for days or weeks, checking in every few days. Every time I check the latest flight options, I feel anxious as I click search. In fact, I bought my Thanksgiving tickets yesterday, 10 days before I'm leaving. I first started looking at the flights about a month ago and pretty much decided what I wanted, but I've been dragging my feet on committing ever since. Keeping my options open on these flights definitely did not make me happier. And it was unnecessary. My plans were pretty clear, and in the unlikely event that I really needed to change them, I could have bought another flight and it wouldn't have been a big deal in my life. If you add up all of the anxiety that I've felt over this month, every time I've thought about these flights, including the conflicted feeling of, I need to check back in on the flight prices, but I'm also anxious to look because it's been so long, it's been quite a lot of anxiety. Having this hanging over my head has been a bigger detriment to my happiness this past month than the pain from my still healing broken collarbone. In the past few years, I've been learning how to be happy in spite of my anxiety. I've made some big decisions and commitments, most recently a major role change at work, despite the anxiety that any long-term decision triggers for me. One of the best solutions that I've found in therapy is not to fight my anxious worries, but to notice and accept them. After I bought my flights yesterday, when I had thoughts of, should I have booked the noon flight? What if we oversleep and miss it? My first instinct is always to out-argue the worry. I've never missed a flight. We'll set multiple alarms and leave early in case things are slow. But I've learned that sometimes that is not the best approach. Arguing with the worries validates them, which can cause my brain to keep letting them back in. The real problem here is not that I think I'm going to miss my flight. It's that I second guess and worry about anything available. So instead of playing the game that anxiety wants me to, an alternative is just to say, this is an anxious thought. No need to fight the thought. No need to feel bad about it passing through. I try to treat my anxiety like a gust of wind. It's out of my control. It can be unpleasant. I don't quite know when it's going to stop. But if I wait, it will probably pass. And I can be quite happy when I manage to truly accept my anxiety and accept that life is filled with uncertainty.
Our offering will now be both given and gratefully received. And in case you're worried that you won't give enough and later you'll second guess yourself, there is one really easy solution. Following the baskets that will go around will be another set of baskets with the guest at your table boxes. So I invite you to take one of those key ingredients to joy. So our reading this morning is drawn from another of Arlie Hochschild's books. As we get ready for her visit next week, it's from a book called The Outsourced Self. Speaking of the village in Maine where her father's family had a farm since 1790, she writes this. My Aunt Elizabeth had a phrase for the relations of the village. Just do, she called it. When a need arises, she explained, neighbors don't think about it. It's in their bones. They just do. Just do means neighbors in town keeping a casual eye out, carrying on through the exchanges of baked goods, borrowed tools, know-how, babysitting, and spur-of-the-moment drop-ins. The spirit of the gift, in the words of French anthropologist Marcel Mauss. Neighbors who had bumper crops of tomatoes or more venison than they thought they could freeze for the winter would expect to share it. And it would be a measure of a neighbor's character if they did not. Less money changed hands than in the city, but also many more gifts exchanged. When money did change hands, it did so differently. Along the edges of lawns, signs would appear, fresh corn, gladiolas, Christmas tree wreaths, with the promised goods set out on small stands by a change jar. By exchanging gifts and services this way, people were affirming a basic tenet of small town life. Around here, we just trust one another. People here didn't give practical help just to get things done. They got things done in part to affirm their bonds. Part of such bonds expressed love of one another's company, but they also expressed an unspoken pact I'm on call for you in your hour of need, and you are for me. Villagers might quarrel, gossip, get bored, leave. But living there, they paid a moral tax to the community in this readiness to just do. Here ends our reading. In his Nicomachean Ethics, isn't that fun to say, Nicomachean Ethics? How often does one get to say that publicly? Maybe John Clopaz does his work as a professor. Nicomachean Ethics. In it, Aristotle wrote about what he called, and I may be pronouncing this wrong, eudaimonia. Sounds like something you might use to sanitize dangerous places, but it's not. It's his word for happiness, something that wasn't joy per se, but a deeper thing. The aim of, quote, all knowledge and every pursuit, he would write. All of it, all of life, he said, aims at some good. And that good is the same for people of every walk of life. Everything he wrote aims at happiness. What we mean when we use and say that word, however, is another matter. For some, he wrote, happiness gets confused with, quote, some plain and obvious things like pleasure, wealth, or honor. That's true, of course, the confusion. It catches us up in it all the time. I mean, who doesn't love pleasure? The pleasure of a warm bath on a cold day or chocolate chip cookies fresh out of the oven or a great foot massage, fill in the blank. But it has its limits. An eternal back rub, as Forest Church used to say, my minister, one of them growing up, an eternal back rub would be hell, not heaven. And a life that's in pursuit of pleasure isn't enough, not for me. It isn't pleasurable, not in the way other things in life are. But more about that later. And most of us are completely delighted with honor, which I take to mean the respect and recognition of our peers. That experience or reality can be a powerful affirmation of our work and of our ability to create and hold meaningful relationships of trust and common work. At least that's the way it's always felt for me. But honor is fickle too. Some of the greatest lives, some of the bearers of the greatest new truths have not found honor among their peers. So honor is nice, but not the key to happiness. You can't build your life on that. And wealth too, of course, has its ups and downs. Maslow rightly pointed out that there is this hierarchy of need, and we need the basic ones to be covered, to be free, to reach for, to think about, to have room for the higher needs. To dream and to delight in self-actualization is almost impossible on a hungry belly or for a person who spends their days living on the streets, for instance, in constant vigilance and broken nights of rest, never at peace for long. Do a night on the streets with the faithful fools if you doubt how fast it drops you down the hierarchy of needs. But as one billionaire said to a friend of mine, I can only wear one pair of pants at a time. Marginal utility, in other words, gets pretty damned marginal. And so it probably won't surprise any of you that studies have shown that happiness goes up with wealth while it's taking care of basic needs and allowing us security, and it plateaus much sooner than you would think. And then it starts a gradual drop, sooner, I think, than many of us would think also. It buys a lot, but at a certain point, it can't add to your joy, that extra set of pants, can it? And it doesn't buy, well, the Beatles reminded us, it doesn't buy a lot of things. It can't buy you love, for instance. Not real love. So material wealth and physical comfort and honor, they do all contribute to our happiness, but as the philosopher would say, in moderation. What then? What's the recipe for this thing that we all yearn for and orient our lives around seeking? Well, in the last decade or so, finding this out has gotten pretty scientific. What Aristotle guessed at and observed in the world has, with the whole field of positive psychology, which has developed not to look at our dysfunctions and our psychological illnesses, but what makes us healthy and resilient and thrive. Well, it's been looking at what makes us happy. Of course, Bhutan has been measuring such things since the 1970s with their gross national happiness index. And the Netherlands has started doing that too. And we're finding some clues based on facts. First, studies have confirmed that you and I are pretty bad predictors of what makes us happy. Aristotle knew that. He notes in the Nicomachean Ethics that we see happiness as health when we are ill and as wealth when we are poor. He's right. What we think makes us happy often changes with our circumstances. But also that things we thought would make us happy, when they come to us, often don't give us the joy that we thought they would. And what we thought would make us miserable, if it comes to pass, doesn't often banish quite as much joy as we thought it might. The promotion at work that we thought would make us feel great doesn't have a long-term effect, not the one we hoped for. And being fired wasn't so awful or devastating to our general well-being as we thought it might be. It may well actually be that human beings, you and I, that we have a kind of natural set point for happiness, that we can be thrown off it for a while in one direction or the other, but often we kind of swing back to normal, a new normal, as my friend with MS has talked about it. Given how much loss and hurt and illness and heartbreak there is in any good life, I think that's actually comforting to know. We do know a little bit more about what makes us unhappy. What for sure pushes our happiness meters lower is something that the wise teacher, the Dalai Lama, calls the comparing mind. He means that bad habit that human beings have of comparing ourselves to others. But not just comparing ourselves to any human beings. He means our proclivity to compare ourselves, as one friend put it, up the ladder. And then convincing ourselves that we can't be truly happy unless we get what they have. So here's a stark example. In one survey, when asked whether people would rather, now stay with me to follow the details, would rather earn $50,000 in a company where most everyone else earned $25,000, or earn twice that amount, $100,000, in a company where everybody else earned $200,000. Half the people chose the former. Meaning, sometimes it may not be so much that we think having more in absolute terms will make us happy, but that really we just want to have more than our neighbors. And because there will always be neighbors who have more of something, right? Better looking, smarter, faster, more powerful, better six-pack abs, funnier, you get the idea. Because there's always someone who will have more. Comparing ourselves up the ladder to the best possibilities, well, it's this ever elusive and receding target as long as we indulge in that comparing mind. Maybe a better comparing mind is the one that looks down the ladder, a rung or 100, to remind ourselves of what we do have, or looks squarely at our lives as they are and takes stock. One that provokes us to gratitude. All of which reminds me of something I read years ago in The Art of Happiness that was written by Howard Cutler and the Dalai Lama. They both recalled this interview with Christopher Reeve. Reeve was reflecting on his life and how his infamous accident while horseback riding left him quadriplegic, as many of you remember, unable to breathe without even a ventilator. And in the interview, Reeve said he understandably suffered incredible depression and despair after the accident. But he went on to say that what pulled him out of it was when he began to focus not on what he lost, but on what he did have. When it started to occur to him the incredible supportive family that he had around him, and the blessings of modern medicine that still held out hope for a cure and had allowed him to survive, and how glad he was that he had the functioning of his mind after the accident. And sure, at times, he said he was struck by pangs of jealousy and sadness, but he said, I realized the only way to go through life is to look at your assets. What could Christopher Reeve do? What assets did he have? Well, he could champion the cause of survivors of spinal cord injuries. He had the fame to do that. He could use his fame to raise funds for research. He could offer his own sweet body to the more experimental attempts to reverse the damage suffered in such injuries, which he did. He could still work as an actor. He did also join the Westport Unitarian Universalist Church in Connecticut, which I have to say could be embedded in that just do world that Hochschild talks about. There are all kinds of things studies and philosophers and religious leaders have identified that add to your happiness and to mine. Scientific studies say fresh flowers make us happier. Being treated to a meal makes us happier than the slight more unhappiness we have when we pay for two people. So a world of more happiness involves alternating treating, just in case you're interested in small ways you can maximize gross national happiness. Helping others makes us happy. All those things in Hochschild's description of what it means to be in that farming community in Maine, right? All of that actually, of course, makes us happier. We live longer, right? When we're connected in this web of care that has trust and give and take. Hell is other people, Sartre said. But heaven is other people too, I think. Learning new things makes you and I happy. Laughter does. I'm sure many of you know by now that making your face smile, even a fake smile, makes us happier. Aristotle thought activity of the soul in accordance with virtue was the key to happiness, that being good made us happy. And I know I'm a minister, and I know I'm meant to say that, but I do agree with him. Did you know that in the Chinese language, the word for the highest of human good, Zhen, I hope I'm saying that right, is also the word for true personhood? Goodness linked with full humanity in one ideogram, inextricable. I think Aristotle and the Chinese language are right on this one. I think there is joy and deep, unshakable peace when we live in accordance with our values in virtuous relationships with each other. I'm thinking I should take a billboard out in Washington, D.C. with that on it. Do what you can, be who you are, want what you have, love who you are with, Forrest Church said at the end of his life as his recipe for happiness. Indeed. What makes us happy? I'm pretty sure when you get right down to it, happiness is, well, this. When we can leave anxiety at bay and quit the comparing mind. When we can embed ourselves in virtuous connections with others and be here, just here, right now. Some version of this, my good friends, I'm pretty sure is as good as it gets. And damn good, actually, if we're honest about it. So heading into the Thanksgiving season, which is all about harvests of the fields from this year, I invite us to take in the harvests of our lives, body, mind, spirit, the this moment harvests of our lives. And in that spirit, I leave us with the words by UU poet Lynn Unger, who writes this. I have been trying to read the script that is cut in these hills, a language carved in the shimmer of stubble and the solid lines of soil, spoken in the thud of falling apples and the rasp of corn stalks, finely bare. The pheasants shout it with their rusty creak as they gather in the fallen grain, and the blackbirds sing it over their shoulder parting, and gold leaf illuminates the manuscript where it is written in the trees. Transcribed onto my human tongue, I believe it might sound like a lullaby or a child's prayer before bed. Across the gathered stillness, simply this. For all we have received, dear God, make us truly thankful. So may it be. I invite us to put down our hymnals but remain standing, and let's join hands. If you are sick or immunocompromised, just put your arms across your chest and we will still include you in the circle, the web. And now, in our comings and our goings, may the light of love shine upon us. Out from within us, be gracious unto us and grant us peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.